You could make an argument, at least in those states, there was a call for more spending, more government, and not a call for some of the things that Republicans could be espousing right now. Now, that is a leap. It doesn't necessarily translate into anything approaching similar changes next year in the midterms. But to the Federalist senior editor, Mollie Hemingway, Daily Caller Foundation editor-in-chief Chris Bedford. All right, Mollie, to you first on this. Do you think yesterday's elections reminded Republicans that maybe voters in at least those key areas aren't such government spending haters?
Well, certainly Virginia, which is ground zero of the swamp, has never been a government spending hater. That is a major driver of the economy in Virginia. And also, New Jersey, being a coastal state, might not have the same resistance to a government large in size or scope that you see in other states. But you hope that Republicans are learning lessons from what they saw last night. I mean, this was just an unbelievable defeat across the board. It's not that Ed Gillespie lost to Ralph Northam in Virginia. That was expected. Fox News polling had him down 7 or something like that. But the changeover in the House of Delegates, which was 66-34, Republican to Democrat, and Democrats took that over, that's significant. And that is something that should wake people up to the seriousness of what faces Republicans next year. Midterm elections tend to go for the out party. And under Obama, I think Democrats lost something like 1,000 state legislative seats. So they have a lot of ground to pick up. You'll expect to see them get back some of those seats. But this was still a pretty staggering defeat for Republicans. I'm
just wondering how it would play out then next year, Chris, because we talk about how Democrats would have to do a good job of protecting the 25 seats they have up for grabs next year and then getting 8 more to turn the tide. And in the House, picking up 24, where it seems conceivably easier. In this mood and this environment, if this were to hold, what type of candidate should they field? Now, Steve Bannon comes out and says, well, not guys like Gillespie then. What do you say?
Well, Gillespie was not actually really a great candidate. Gillespie, he distanced himself he kept himself distant from Donald Trump. You never hear Trump's name come out of his mouth, but he did latch on to some of his policies. But he's kind of the guy that Donald Trump and the whole populist thing always ran against. He's the K Street guy. He's the Bush White House guy. He's been around this town for a while. He ran a decent campaign, but it didn't really work. Republicans shouldn't try to overthrow the entire party if they want to stick to it.
So you wouldn't be for this effort to primary these guys, to find real rabid types to take the place of the establishment guys, for lack of a better term?
No, the Democrats have this habit, after they got beat by Donald Trump, of inventing these big, evil, dark forces, from Vladimir Putin and the hacking scandal all the way to Steve Bannon. And I think that all of them have been a little overstated. So even Republicans shouldn't be too worried. What they should absolutely be worried about, and it's looking difficult, is getting something done. The House, the Senate, the House has passed pretty much the entire Trump agenda, but the Senate needs to get this tax reform done. They need to get it done so they have something they can go back to their districts and say, all right, one of the things, at least one of the things I ran on, I did. Re-elect me.
Mollie, I'm just wondering now, the heightened urgency for Republicans to get this done. They need a victory. Even Democrats say, hey, you guys need to get these tax cuts through, even if they hate them. Do they, even if they're the wrong type of tax cuts, or they add more controversy than they're worth? I mean, I know the argument has always been some tax cuts are better than no tax cuts, but once you look under the hood here, some of these aren't as endearing as they seem. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is actually such a modest tax reform and tax relief plan. That is the big problem with it, that it's not enough. But having said that, you had the Republicans won 4 special elections following the Trump victory that made them very happy. It made them think everything was fine. If Gillespie had won and if Virginia had kept their House of Delegates under Republican control, even in a year like this where so little has been accomplished by Congress, then you might have seen people on the Hill think, well, I guess we can just keep on kind of doing nothing and it's going to work out all right. That is definitely the wrong lesson to take, and hopefully they understand they need to do something. There have been so many failures, whether it is repeal of Obamacare, tax relief or tax reform, or something else.
Well, do you think they can, Mollie? Do you think they can? We're already getting indication that the Senate measure, when it comes out, is going to be markedly different than the House measure, leaving aside the time it takes to reconcile that. And that's not new or unusual or unique to Republicans. Democrats have dealt with the same. But, I mean, it could be significant. And you have a number of retiring senators who could just say, I don't want a part of this.
I actually think that you that you definitely have at least a good shot of passing tax reform.
Okay.
The way it was put forth was not, this is how it has to be, and if it's not this, we're not going to agree to it. There's so much room, there's so much wiggle room, there's so many things you can get people to barter with. So I think that it still has a really strong chance. And also, more than anything, if they don't pass it, they don't deserve to stay in power, and or pass something significant. They don't deserve to stay in power. And I think that the voters, I mean, one of the things you saw with the electorate last night, Democrats are so excited to get out and vote and express some kind of opposition to Donald Trump. You're not seeing that enthusiasm in the Republican base. So you have to give Republicans some reason to think that it's worthwhile to go vote for someone, whether it's someone like Ed Gillespie or someone more populist, and they just have to think about being laser focused on that in the next year if they want to retain the Senate and the House.
All right, Chris, can they do that? If you had to make a prediction right now, a year from now, whether they hold on to the Senate and/or House, your thoughts?
I think they hold on to the House. I think Democrats are overstretching on that. Also, Democrats showed in the month after they got beaten a year ago today by Donald Trump, they said, we're going to step back and we're going to focus on the economy. We're going to focus on white working class. We're going to focus on any working class voters. And after about a month, that was completely forgotten, and they've doubled down on a lot of the policies that Barack Obama successfully did, but no one in the Democratic Party has got nearly the charisma that he had to be able to hold this thing together. Same thing with the Senate. The GOP's pretty safe as far as that goes. I don't think they're going to see any gains, though.
All right.
And that's more likely to go than the House. The House of Representatives, I would bet $1 stays GOP.